Hi, good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome Paul Lepinier, the Managing Director of Strickland Metals Limited, with ASX ticker code Sierra Tango Kilo, STK, an Australian mineral exploration company focused on advancing key projects in Western Australia and Serbia. Paul previously served as Head of Exploration at Fortescue Metals Group and is a founding partner at Ibera Capital, a private equity firm managing $150 million in resource-focused assets. Today, he is here to talk to us about Strickland Metals' two exciting projects, Rogozna in Serbia and Yandal in Western Australia, both which are central to the company's strategy to deliver superior shareholder returns through strategic exploration and development. Welcome. How are you today, Paul?
I'm great, thanks, Gia. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing really well, thanks. Well, look, I'm excited. Let's dive right in. I'd love for you to give us a bit of an introduction and an overview into Strickland Metals and what the company is actually focused on.
So Strickland Metals is obviously an ASX listed explorer. We've got two really high quality assets, which is very, very rare in the Australian space. Most companies tend to have sort of one project, whereas
Hmm.
we've actually got two. We've got the tier one scale project in Serbia called Rogozna, and we've
Yes.
got a second project here in Western Australia called the Yandal project, which is another gold project located just adjacent to Northern Star's Jundee mine. So both very strategic assets in their own right.
Brilliant. Could you give us a bit of a geographical um, where Yandal is actually in Western Australia for those who are not familiar?
Yep. So Yandal's in the eastern goldfields, so sort of north of Kalgoorlie.
Good.
And you've got a whole heap of sort of roughly north-south trending gold belts that run through Western Australia. And Yandal sits in one of those. In fact, we've got 70 kilometres of strike along one of these prospective greenstones.
Brilliant. Well, look, you already mentioned Northern Star Resources, which I'll go back to very shortly. But let's go back into now Strickland Metals. You have like those two key projects, obviously, Rogozna and Yandal. I mean, what really makes these two projects stand out?
Yeah, so each one's very different. So for
Hmm.
Serbia, the Rogozna project, what makes that project stand out is its scale. We currently
Sure.
have 7.4 million ounce gold equivalent in resource.
Yes.
So to put that into context, that's in the top 5% globally for gold projects. So it's absolutely massive. And that's what really sets that project apart. And because it's so big, it's very strategic in its own right. Assets like this don't come along very often in a junior. They're normally owned by the majors. So it's a really major thing that a company like Strickland can actually own a project like this. And then in Western Australia, Yandal is strategic for its own right. And the reason being, it's right next door to an operating mill. So when you've got a project next to an operating mine, those any gold you can find in the ground there is hugely valuable. And to put that into context, 2 years ago, Strickland sold about 350,000 ounces to Northern Star for their mine next door and was paid $60 million for that. So that was roughly about $175 an ounce. So that shows how valuable those sort of high margin ounces next to a mill can be. And that was when gold was over $1,000 less than it is today.
And again, I want to reiterate, so those two flagship projects, they're actually in gold.
Yes, correct. So gold, we're very much gold focused. We think gold is the great place to be, and particularly now.
The durability, the enduring love and story of gold. So, look, the Rogozna project recently reported some really impressive drilling results, including 365.8 meters at 2 grams per ton gold equivalent from Medenovac. So, can you
Yep.
explain to me why is this result actually so important?
Well, firstly, you don't see drill holes like that on the ASX very often, right? Where you get
Hmm.
over 300 meters of continuous mineralization. And so that was a cracking drill hole. Yes. We had about 10 holes like that last year. And so when you put them all together, that's why they become important because for a number of reasons, it shows the scale of the deposits is just massive. Again, comparing to projects here, normally you'll get sort of 10, 20, 30 meters of mineralization, not 300. Secondly, when you're getting mineralization like that, it's really quick and efficient to grow resources.
Hmm.
So we only need sort of 10 drill holes like that, and you've added 1 million ounces. So it becomes quite important, for your growth story.
Tremendous. And look, I guess something what I'm really curious about is you've obviously got these two flagship projects in quite contrasting environments. Could you give us a bit of an outline around like the skill set that like Strickland actually has to capitalize on both projects?
Yeah, well, we're very lucky to have two really high quality teams managing each project. So we don't
Mhm.
have people flying in and out of Australia to manage our Serbian project, for example. We've got a team on the ground of about 40 people there, only one expat geologist.
Wow.
And that skill set that we have there, some of those guys have been exploring in this area for over 20 years. So they've got experience in the region on the ground, and that's really valuable.
And a
Similarly
highly
here in
localized
Western,
team.
yeah, that's right. And similarly here in Western Australia, we've got about a team of sort of 10 to 15 people that manage that project. And many of those guys have been on this project for over 5 years. So from my perspective as a manager of all that, I don't need to micromanage. I'm able to sort of delegate to those teams and, give them the strategy and let them get out to and get to work.
Tremendous. Well, look, the Yandal project covers a really large area with significant gold potential. What sort of progress have you made there recently?
So last year at Yandal, we drilled about 20,000 meters at Horsewell. So there's two main gold camps at Yandal. Horsewell is the main one, and we drilled 20,000 meters there last year. Just last week, we released a resource update for that camp. We've basically got 300,000 ounces there at Horsewell at about 2 grams per ton gold from surface. So that's
Mhm.
really good. And that takes our Yandal project now to about 400,000 ounces. So to put that into perspective, that's 400,000 ounces next to a mill. That's more gold than what we sold Northern Star a couple of years ago. So we've made really good progress there.
Tremendous. Well, look, I looked at your financials. You have a market cap around $200 million, and currently you're sitting on about 33.8 million in cash and shares. I mean, how do you plan to invest this to maximize your growth for the rest of 2025?
Well, this year we've got a really aggressive exploration campaign in Serbia. So we've currently got 5 rigs on the ground. We should have a sixth rig arriving and starting this week. We're going to drill about
Hmm.
50,000 meters of growth drilling there. So, and that's split between resources. So we're going to grow the resources there. As I mentioned earlier, we've got about 7.4 million ounces currently. The goal is to try and get that to 10 million ounces as quick as possible. But at the same time, we're going to use two of those drilling rigs testing a whole heap of new targets to try and get that sizzle that you get from the excitement when you make new discoveries like we did last year at Kotlovi. And then in Western Australia, we're also going to drill about 20,000 meters here, aiming to increase those resources at Yandal.
Excellent. Well, look, I mean, coming back into Kotlovi, you recently did announce that new discovery at Kotlovi and strong results at the Hoswell deposit. So, what are your next steps for these projects?
Yeah, so for Kotlovi, that's located next to Medenovats, which we talked about earlier. So we'll drill about another 4,000 meters there, trying to scope out the scale of that system. And at
Hmm.
Horsewell, we're moving forward with that project. We're currently doing some studies to, assess what mining might look like there and progressing the mining license application through the process as well.
And just help our viewers understand, are we still also talking about gold projects at those two new locations?
Yes, definitely gold projects. So, as we said, Horsewell's already got 300,000 ounces, and we're going to assess what mining might look like there. And Kotlovi's got gold, but also importantly, got some copper as well.
Right. It sounds like it's, yeah, I mean, gold at the moment, with all the geopolitical tensions at the moment, it really is safe as houses. So, look, the Shanak deposit is a really key part of the Rogozna project. How are you planning to improve and expand this high grade area?
Yeah, the high grade core in Shanats makes up about 30% of the metal. So last year, we from the drilling we did there, we got some amazing drill hits. 90 meters at 4 grams, for example, gold.
Mhm.
So we're planning on drilling more around that central core
Mhm.
and trying to expand that high grade gold zone. And so we'll probably drill about 6,000 meters doing that this year. And then once we've done that, we're then going to be in a position where we can undertake mining studies for Shanats.
And it sounds like, look, just from this conversation at the moment, there was a lot of drilling activity, and there continues to be a lot more drilling activity moving into the rest of 2025.
Yeah, so last year we were one of the more active juniors towards the back end of the year on the
Hmm.
ASX.
Yep.
This year with 50,000 meters in Serbia and another 20,000 meters here, I think that'll put us in the top five sort of companies on the ASX in terms of exploration companies. So we put out drill results normally every couple of weeks. We're super active, so there's a
Mhm.
lot of news flow, a lot of catalysts to come.
And in a way, you've started to monetize some of those assets, right?
Yeah, so a couple of years ago, as I mentioned, Strickland monetized one part of their Yandal project for 61 million.
Mhm.
We're always looking for ways to create value in that sense. So we'll continue to look at those options down the track as well.
Which really brings me to that next question that I've been dying to ask. Look, Strickland Metals, you do have a strategic relationship with Northern Star. I mean, how does this partnership help support your growth?
Yeah, so it's not a formal strategic partnership or anything like that. We transacted with Northern Star. We have good
Mhm.
dialogue with Northern Star.
Mhm.
So they're a logical owner
Yep.
for any resources we may find there at Yandal. So it's good to have pretty good relationship with someone that you might want to be your customer.
Yes.
So it's a bit of a symbiotic relationship there.
Excellent. So look, my final question here is like, what key milestones should investors be looking out for in the coming months with, supported by all of that future news flow we're going to be expecting?
Yeah, so the key ones is, probably as of about May, we're going to start pumping out a lot of drill results, firstly out of Serbia. From Western Australia, we've got a really important exploration program going at the moment at dusk till dawn. So we'll start putting out results on that in May as well. And then, sort of towards the middle and back end of the year, we're going to have multiple resource upgrades from both projects. And we're aiming to deliver a scoping study for Serbia as well, either late this year or early next year. So it's going to be a steady stream of results, a lot of resource growth. And I think, by late in the year, the value of the company will be really transparent.
Excellent. Look, I do have one final question, and that's more for my curiosity. Obviously, you've come from, one of WA's leading golden stories. You were the head of exploration at FMG. And what sort of competencies do you bring across from FMG now in the iron ore space, particularly moving into gold here?
Yeah, so it's not any competency on a commodity front. Certainly, iron ore and gold are pretty different. But certainly, there were some great lessons learned from FMG, starting from the top down. I was lucky to be there in the very early days.
Yep.
So I saw what it took to grow from nothing into one of the most successful companies ever, right? So
Mhm.
that's the key learnings. I won't. There's too many to sort of go through. A couple of the, but it's all about people. You got to have
Yep.
the best combination of a really high quality driven team,
Mhm.
and then you got to have the assets to be able to do, to be able to do it. And those are the two really key lessons. There's a whole heap more, but I won't bore you with the details. But fundamentally, I've seen what it takes to grow these things. We have currently got the assets to do it, and we've got the team to do it.
Excellent. Well, look, it sounds like I could be speaking with you very soon again, towards maybe in the next few months, as all your news flow continues to accelerate.
Yeah, I hope so.
Well, look, Paul, what I'll do here is, as always, if any of our investors, our members, if they have any questions, please send them through to us, info@eastcoastresearch.com.au or info@sharesandvalue.com.au, and we'll forward them onto your team to handle. Is that okay?
Yeah, fantastic.
Tremendous. Hope to see you soon, Paul.
All right, thanks, Gia.